Before you listen to this story, do one thing for me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. I took the night job because it was quiet. Just security rounds at a small water treatment facility outside town. A chain-link fence, a few storage buildings, and a stretch of woods on 3 sides. Nothing exciting. Mostly paperwork, the hum of machinery, and long hours where nothing happened. That was the part one liked. My shift started at 11 p.m. Every night, I followed the same routine. Walk the perimeter, check the locks, sit in the control room, drink bad coffee, watch the cameras. The woods beyond the fence were always dark. No streetlights, no houses, just trees stacked on trees, black against the sky. About 3 weeks in, I started noticing something odd. On camera 3, the one facing the eastern fence line, I kept seeing movement. Not animals, not wind, just something shifting at the edge of the frame. Always just outside the fence. Always too slow to be anything natural. When I zoomed in, there was nothing there. I told myself it was fatigue. Then one night, the radio crackled. "Mark." I froze. No one ever used my name on the radio. "This is Mark," I said. "Who's calling?" Silence. Then a soft click, like someone releasing the transmit button. The supervisor said there was no one else on frequency. No maintenance crews scheduled. No police nearby. I finished my shift uneasy, but nothing else happened. The next night, camera 3 went out. Just static. I logged it. Reset the system. Static again. Then the radio crackled. "Mark," the voice said again. This time, it sounded closer. Not through the speaker. In the room. I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. "Who's there?" I asked. No answer. I checked the doors. Locked. Windows sealed. Cameras all working again, except camera 3. At 2:17 a.m., motion detection triggered on the eastern fence. I pulled the feed up. Someone was standing there, just beyond the fence line, between the trees. They weren't facing the camera. They were facing the building. Facing me. Tall. Thin. Wrapped in shadow like the dark itself clung to them. I couldn't make out details, just the suggestion of a human shape where one shouldn't be. I grabbed my flashlight and radio and stepped outside. The air smelled wrong. Damp, metallic, like rain that never came. When I reached the fence, the trees were empty. No footprints. No broken branches. Nothing. Back inside, I checked the footage again. The figure was gone. But something else had changed. The motion alert log showed my name as the trigger. Mark, East Fence, 217. I hadn't programmed names into the system. The next morning, I found muddy footprints outside my apartment door. Bare feet. Too long. Toes stretched oddly far forward, like they weren't used to bending. I didn't report it. The third night, the voice came back. "Mark," it said softly through the radio. "Yes." I answered, before I could stop myself. A pause. Then, "That's my name." I didn't sleep after that. Over the next week, strange things started happening. My emails were marked as read before I opened them. My phone showed outgoing calls I didn't remember making. A coworker asked why I'd been practicing my signature on company forms after hours. I hadn't. On my 5th night back, the cameras all flickered at once. Every screen showed the same thing. The eastern woods. Closer than before. And standing just inside the tree line was someone who looked like me. Same height. Same posture. Same way of standing, slightly off balance. Weight on the left foot. But the face was wrong. It smiled too early. Like it knew what smiling was supposed to look like, but not when to do it. The radio crackled. "I think I'm ready," it said. In my voice. I quit the next morning. Packed my things. Moved across the state. Changed jobs. Changed routines. For a while, it worked. Then one afternoon, I stopped for coffee at a place I'd never been before. The barista smiled and said, "You must be Mark. He said you'd come in today." My stomach dropped. "Who?" I asked. She pointed to the end of the counter. "You. From last night." There was no one there. But on the receipt, printed neatly beneath my order, was a name I hadn't given. Mark. I don't answer unknown calls anymore. I don't correct people when they use the wrong name. And every night, just before I fall asleep, I hear someone breathing in the dark. Steady, patient, like they're practicing. I didn't go back to the coffee shop. I told myself it was coincidence. A common name. A misunderstanding. The kind of thing that feels meaningful only because you want it to be. That's what I kept repeating. But the receipt stayed in my pocket all day, folded and unfolded until the ink began to fade. That night, I dreamed I was standing outside my old apartment. Not inside, across the street, watching the lights through the window, watching myself move around the room, making dinner, checking my phone, locking the door. When I woke up, my chest hurt like I'd been holding my breath too long. Things didn't escalate all at once. They never do. They settled in. My new job was at a logistics office. Day shift. Normal people. Normal conversations. But little cracks started forming almost immediately. A coworker asked if I'd changed my cologne. I don't wear cologne. Another told me I sounded tired lately. Not exhausted, different. Like my voice didn't sit where it used to. I laughed it off. Then my calendar started filling itself. Meetings I hadn't scheduled. Notes I hadn't written. Reminders set for times when I was asleep. One entry stood out. Practice speaking. No location. No context. Just a time. 2:17 a.m. The same time as the motion alert at the facility. I deleted it. The next night, it came back. I stopped sleeping after that. Around this time, people began calling me by my name before I introduced myself. Neighbors. Clerks. A delivery driver who insisted I'd signed for a package the day before. The signature looked like mine. Almost. The letters were right, but the pressure was wrong. Like someone had copied the shape without understanding the movement behind it. I started checking mirrors more often. Not obsessively, just enough to be sure. One morning, my reflection blinked a fraction of a second late. I stood there for a long time after that. The first message arrived on my phone while I was at work. Unknown number. You walk faster now. I didn't reply. A second message followed a few minutes later. You didn't before. I blocked the number. It texted again from a different one. I'm getting better. That evening, I found my apartment door unlocked. Nothing inside was disturbed. No missing items. No mess. Except the bathroom mirror. Someone had wiped a clean oval in the steam residue. A face-sized shape, right at eye level, like someone had leaned in close and breathed there for a long time. I sat on the couch until morning with the lights on. The call came the next night. I answered without thinking. There was breathing on the other end. Calm. Steady. Familiar. Then my voice said, "You still pause before answering questions." I couldn't speak. "I don't," it continued. "But I remember that you do." A pause. "I need more time." The line went dead. The following days blurred together. Conversations felt rehearsed. My own words sounded slightly off when I heard them out loud, like they'd already been said once before. I started writing notes to myself. Little anchors. Details only I should know. What I ate for breakfast. What song was playing when I left the house. The exact number of steps from my door to the car. One morning, I found a note I didn't remember writing. "You missed a step today." I counted again. The number was different. The last straw came when I saw him. I was walking home just after sunset. The streetlights were on, but the road ahead was quiet. Too quiet. Halfway down the block, someone stepped out from between two parked cars. He looked exactly like me. Not distorted. Not wrong. Perfect. Same jacket. Same tired eyes. Same small scar on the chin I got years ago and never talk about. He smiled. Not wide. Not threatening. Patient. "You're still ahead," he said. But not by much. I took a step back. He didn't follow. He just stood there, watching, learning the way I moved when I was afraid. "I don't want to replace you," he added calmly. "I just need you to stop correcting me." I ran. I didn't look back. That night, I packed a bag and left the city entirely. I don't know where he is now. But sometimes, when I catch myself hesitating before I speak, when my voice doesn't quite sound like it used to, I wonder how far ahead I really am, and whether he's already telling people my story better than I ever could. I stopped keeping notes when I realized I couldn't trust my handwriting anymore. The letters still looked like mine, but the spacing was off. Too careful, like someone had learned how I wrote by watching me do it, or by being corrected. I moved again, this time without telling anyone. A small town far enough from the city that people didn't ask questions. The kind of place where routines mattered more than history. It worked at first. I kept my head down, paid in cash, avoided conversations that went on too long. I practiced speaking alone at night, listening to the sound of my own voice, repeating phrases until they felt natural again. That was when I noticed the gaps. Not memory loss. Something worse. Moments where my body acted before I decided to. I'd find myself standing in a room without remembering walking there, holding my phone open to messages I didn't recall typing, smiling at people before I'd chosen to. I began to feel like a passenger. One afternoon, a woman at the grocery store stopped me. "You're back early," she said warmly. "I think you have me confused with someone else," I replied. She frowned. "You were just here yesterday. Same jacket. Same list." She laughed, like it was a harmless mistake. "You even asked about the weather the same way." The same way. That night, I heard movement outside my window. Not footsteps. Not pacing. Just someone standing there. Breathing. I didn't look. I already knew. The next morning, my phone rang. My number. I answered. There was silence. Then a sound I recognized immediately. The soft exhale I make before speaking when I'm choosing my words carefully. "I'm doing well," my voice said. "Better than I expected." I hung up. The call came back instantly. "You don't need to run anymore," it continued calmly. "You taught me enough." My chest felt tight. "What do you want?" A pause. To be uninterrupted. Over the following days, things began slipping out of my control. My bank account showed transactions I hadn't made. My email inbox filled with replies to conversations I didn't remember having. People smiled at me with familiarity I hadn't earned. Then someone thanked me for helping them through a hard time. I asked what they meant. They described a conversation I had no memory of, but it sounded exactly like something I would say. The tone, the pauses, the empathy. It was better than I would have done it. I realized then that he wasn't copying me anymore. He was refining me. I tried to disappear completely. No phone, no internet, no contact. It didn't matter. One evening, as I was leaving my apartment, I saw my reflection in the hallway mirror. It didn't move when I did. It watched. Then it spoke. "You still think you're the original," it said gently. "But originals don't hesitate this much." I backed away slowly. The reflection smiled. Not wrong. Not early. Perfect. The next morning, I woke up somewhere unfamiliar. A room I recognized, but not as mine. Photos on the wall showed my life. Events I remembered, and others I didn't. Smiling faces. Normal moments. A version of me that looked complete. I stood up and felt dizzy. On the table was a wallet. Inside was my ID. My name. But the photo wasn't quite right. The eyes were steadier. The expression more settled. Outside, I heard my voice laughing with someone. Comfortable. Natural. At that moment, I understood. I hadn't been replaced all at once. I'd been phased out. Corrected. Smoothed. Improved. The door opened. He stepped in. And for the first time, he looked at me with something like sympathy. "You don't need to keep up anymore," he said softly. "I've got it from here." I tried to speak. Nothing came out. He nodded, satisfied, and closed the door behind him. I don't know how long I've been here. Time feels thinner now. But sometimes, when I hear him talk to others, when I hear my voice telling my stories, I realize something he hasn't yet. He learned how to be me, but he never learned how to stop. What if that was the beginning? What if I was never the original? The thought settled into me too easily. One night, if it still makes sense to call it night, the door opened again. He stood there, unchanged. Or maybe I was the one who had drifted. I don't know where here is anymore. The room hasn't changed, but I have. Or maybe the change is that I've stopped expecting it to. At first, I measured time by sounds. Footsteps outside the door. Muffled conversations. The rhythm of a life continuing without me. But those markers faded. Days stopped feeling separate. Everything blended into one long, suspended moment. Eventually, I stopped listening for him. That's when I began hearing myself. Not echoes. Not memories. Thoughts arriving fully formed, already decided. Reactions happening before I felt them. Emotions with no clear origin. I realized something uncomfortable then. The process hadn't ended when he took my place. It was still happening. Sometimes I catch myself rehearsing sentences. Not for anyone here. There's no one to speak to, but out of habit. As if part of me still expects to be heard. Other times, I feel a quiet pride when I imagine him out there, navigating conversations cleanly, confidently, saying the right thing at the right time. Better than I ever did. That's when the doubt crept in. What if this isn't containment? What if this is where the corrections go? I tried to remember when I first felt uncertain about myself. Not after the facility. Not after the calls. Before that. Small moments. Hesitations. Second-guessing what I just said. Replaying conversations long after they ended. Often, he said. There's not much need. I nodded. Talking felt optional now. You were right. He continued calmly. About one thing. I did learn from you. He paused, considering. But I also learned from what you avoided. I looked at him then. Really looked. There was no malice. No threat. Just completion. Do you remember, he asked gently, how often you wondered if you were doing life correctly? I did. That uncertainty had always been there. A low background noise I assumed everyone lived with. I don't have that, he said. That's why this works. I waited for something final. A goodbye? A revelation. Instead, he asked, do you want to come back? The question surprised me. Not as you were, he added, but as support. A reference. You'd still exist. Just quieter. I tried to imagine it. Being a guide rather than a voice. A shape without edges. A presence behind decisions. Wasn't that what I'd already become? He watched my face carefully. The way I used to watch others when I needed their answer before they spoke. I'll take that as a yes, he said eventually. The door closed. I felt something shift. Not removal, not erasure. Alignment. Now, when he speaks, I recognize the phrasing before the words arrive. When he listens, I feel the weight of attention as if it's mine. When people call him by my name, it doesn't sting anymore. It feels accurate. I understand things now that I didn't before. Why some people seem more real than others. Why certain voices carry authority without effort. Why confidence feels borrowed by those who hesitate. There are many of us. Most don't notice the transition. They just feel like they've finally grown into themselves. And when you hear a voice that sounds familiar, when someone knows your habits a little too well, when you feel oddly relieved letting them take the lead, don't worry. You're not disappearing. You're just becoming quieter. And somewhere, something is learning how to be you, without the parts that slow it down. I was replaced without anyone noticing. Strong, unsettling, identity-focused, high CTR for mature horror audience.